Hazel Brooke and the Secrets of Pine-Meadow, Chapter 1, An Unexpected Discovery. Rain had already blurred the edges of Pine-Meadow by the time Hazel Brooke unlocked the cafe's front door. It wasn't a violent storm, just the steady, thoughtful kind that turned the streets silver and made every sound seem slower. The sign above the window creaked softly, the letters fading from years of drizzle. Inside, the smell of ground coffee and yeast hung in the air like comfort that refused to leave. Hazel switched on the lights. Warm yellow washed over polished wood, glass jars, and the small blackboard that read, "Today's special, whatever you need it to be." She smiled. That line had been her idea. Most people came here for caffeine, not philosophy, but Hazel believed in small truths. She moved easily behind the counter, wipe the tables, check the pastry case, start the grinder. It was a rhythm she knew by heart. At 22, Hazel's world was small but precise. The cafe, her apartment above the antique shop, and the quiet streets of Pine-Meadow where nothing ever changed. Until, of course, it did. Outside, rain tapped against the glass in soft patterns. Hazel paused to watch it, tracing shapes on the window with her fingertip. Across the street stood the town library, gray stone and dignified, its windows dark since Ada Merriweather's passing 2 weeks earlier. Ada had been the librarian for as long as anyone could remember, and her death had left the town unsettled in ways it didn't want to discuss. "Earth to Hazel," called Maya, her coworker, pushing through the back door with a tray of uniced cinnamon buns. "You're staring at the rain again. You planning to solve it?" "I was hoping it'd start spelling answers," Hazel said, tying her apron. Maya laughed. "You're impossible before 9. "I'm impossible after 9, too. I just hide it better." They opened the cafe together, the way they did every morning. At first came the regulars, Mr. Bell from the bike shop, Mrs. Ingram with her exacting sugar measurements, the 2 students who treated coffee like confession. Hazel served them all with calm efficiency, her mind always half elsewhere, collecting details. A scuffed shoe, a misplaced keychain, the small mysteries that other people ignored. At 9:30, the bell above the door rang again. A man Hazel didn't recognize stepped inside. He was older, maybe 70, with rain shining on his coat and a hat pulled low. He blinked behind wire-rimmed glasses as if the cafe were too bright. When his eyes met Hazel's, something sharpened in his expression, like recognition without introduction.
"You Hazel Brooke?" he asked.
"I am." He reached into his coat and placed a small brown paper package on the counter.
"Miss Merriweather told me to give this to you."
Hazel frowned. "Ada Merriweather, the librarian?" The man's mouth tightened.
"Was."
He looked as though he might say more but didn't. Instead, he tapped the parcel once with 2 fingers, nodded, and left, the doorbell chiming softly behind him. Through the fogged window, Hazel watched him walk into the rain until he became just another moving shape. Maya raised an eyebrow. "Well, that's not suspicious at all." Hazel turned the package over in her hands. The paper was thick, tied with a single loop of twine. No name, no return address. Only a faint scent of old wood and dust. Library dust. She untied the string, unfolded the paper, and found a small wooden box inside. Polished smooth, corners rounded by use. The initials AM were carved neatly on the lid. Maya leaned over. "Please tell me that's not haunted." "Probably just a thank you gift," Hazel said, though the words didn't feel right. Ada Merriweather wasn't the kind of woman who gave sentimental gifts. She gave advice, or puzzles. Hazel turned the box over. No lock, no hinge. Yet it didn't open. She tried again, gently. Something inside rattled, a faint, metallic sound. Beneath the box, written in pale pencil on the wrapping paper, was a single line. Where shadow meets light, the past waits to be revealed. Hazel's heart gave a quiet, familiar thrill. Ada had loved riddles, had once hidden overdue notices inside crossword puzzles. "Should I be concerned?" Maya asked. "Only if the box starts talking," Hazel said, and slipped it into her bag. The day moved the way small-town days do, steadily, politely. Outside, the rain softened. Inside, conversations rose and fell like predictable tides. But Hazel's thoughts kept returning to the box. Every time she reached for a mug, she felt its weight in her bag, a whisper against her curiosity. When the cafe finally emptied near closing, she locked the door, wiped the counter one last time, and sat beneath the warm glow of the hanging lamp. The cafe was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the rain's gentle persistence. Hazel placed the box on the counter, turning it so the carved initials caught the light. A.M. She ran her thumb over the letters. The wood seemed to warm under her skin. A faint click answered her touch, and the lid lifted a fraction. Inside lay a small brass key and a folded piece of paper. Hazel hesitated, then opened the note. "For the one who notices what others don't, the truth is under our feet." Ada's handwriting, precise, elegant, unmistakable. Hazel stared at the words until the cafe lights flickered, as if the town itself had inhaled. Then, across the street, she thought she saw movement, something shifting in the dark windows of the library. She blinked. Nothing, just rain sliding down the glass. Still, she slipped the key into a pocket. Hazel's apartment above the antique shop was small but orderly. Books stacked by color, notebooks by date, and a corkboard filled with sketches of Pine-Meadow's map. She laid the key on her desk beside the note, studying both like clues. The truth is under our feet. Ada wasn't poetic for the sake of poetry. She meant something literal. Hazel pulled one of the old town maps from her wall, the kind Ada used to lend her, and traced the narrow streets with her finger. The library, the square, the cafe, all close together, all built on the same patch of riverbank soil. Under their feet could mean anything. Foundations, tunnels, cellars. She'd heard stories about old drainage systems beneath Pine-Meadow, left over from the factory days, but nothing official. The kind of stories told in half-jokes. Maybe Ada had found something there, something she shouldn't have. Hazel scribbled notes in her journal. Package delivered after Ada's death. Key fits unknown lock. Riddle implies underground. Library connection likely. She underlined library 3 times. At midnight, rain began again, stronger now, a soft percussion against her window. Hazel sat awake, the map spread before her, the key gleaming under her lamp. She could almost hear Ada's voice, measured, calm, teasing. Look where polite people don't. She'd never ignored Ada before. She wasn't going to start now. The next evening, she went to the library. It was closed, of course, had been since the funeral, but Hazel had the key. The side door opened with a click that sounded louder than it should have. Inside, the air smelled of paper and rain. Her flashlight swept over rows of books, dust motes swirling like lazy stars. She moved slowly, listening. The building groaned in its old way, settling deeper into its foundation. The main room looked unchanged. The big oak tables, the clock frozen at 11:40. Ada's chair still tucked neatly under her desk. Hazel's beam caught something odd near the back wall, a faint movement of air, like a breath. She followed it to a tall bookcase slightly away from the plaster. One book's spine was cleaner than the rest, its title newer, Field Guide to Rain. She smiled despite the tension. Ada, of course. Hazel pulled the book. A soft click. The bookcase shifted forward an inch. Behind it, darkness. Of course, Hazel whispered. The hidden passage was narrow, with stairs descending into cool air. Each step echoed softly. At the bottom, she entered a small stone room lit only by her flashlight's beam. A desk sat in the center, papers stacked neatly. On the wall, maps of Pine-Meadow, crisscrossed with red pencil lines. And on the desk, a tin box engraved with a single symbol, an eye inside a circle. Hazel opened it. Inside were photographs, old clippings, a half-finished letter. If anyone finds this, know that what we built was meant to protect, but the town has forgotten what it buried. The line ended mid-sentence. Hazel picked up a photograph. It showed a tunnel, brick walls, narrow ceiling, a chalk arrow on the floor pointing deeper into the dark. Beneath it, a handwritten label, "The First Town Beneath." Her breath caught. She turned at the sound above her. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, crossing the library floor. Hazel killed the light. Dust drifted from the ceiling. A key turned in a lock, then silence. After a long moment, she exhaled and climbed the stairs, closing the shelf behind her. Outside, rain had returned. The library loomed behind her like a secret keeping itself. Hazel slipped the photograph into her pocket and whispered, "What did you hide, Ada?" The rain didn't answer, but the gutters sang on the half-hour, exactly as they always did.